You think Jodie McKay is on borrowed time?
I think, look, obviously we're focused on the situation. The reality is, Pete, the Labor Party is a shambles in New South Wales. And you've got a situation now where your better talent is on their backbench. Their idea of generational change is going back to bringing forward a shadow treasurer who was their
Michael Daly. So he's coming back to be your opponent. What do you make of that?
Well, he's been on the bench for the last couple of years, so he'll probably pull a hammy when he gets up to the chamber. But look, they are a mess, and I think what they've been exposed for over the last 3 days is at the heart, when you were meant to be looking after the people of New South Wales, they're in there infighting and at war, and they've got to stop focusing on themselves because good governments have good oppositions, and the state of New South Wales and our people need them to get their house into order as quickly as possible.
Okay, a couple of quick tax questions. Yeah. You've got a consultation process in at the moment. As an option to replace stamp duty with land tax, the VICs are increasing stamp duty. So where's your reform up to?
We just finished consultation. We've received thousands of submissions, which is positive, and we're just going through that now and trying to iron out. We had a model that we were consulting on, so we'll look at where that lands, but we're continuing to do that work.
You're still committed to it in your budget?
Yeah, still working through it, and committed, because we need a system that lowers the tax burden and drives home ownership. And it's one of the biggest challenges, particularly in Sydney, are young families getting into the housing market. But look, from our budgets on June 22. But from my perspective, we are not in favour of increasing taxes. We are in favour of reducing taxes to help drive economic growth. So we want to put downward pressure, particularly on a regulation and tax basis on businesses and families across our state.
Are you surprised that Jim Chalmers seemed to support your model recently?
Well, it's a good model, so I'm not surprised. And there are smart people in the Labor Party.
Okay, no doubt you have studied the federal budget papers and seen the decade of deficits that are ahead. Is it time for the feds to convene a summit, or at least lead on tax reform to repair that budget?
Well, I think there's, we talk about economic recovery, but we should be looking at this as an opportunity to transform the country and drive out of this pandemic. And we don't want to go in a structural deficit. We can't just focus on today. We've got to make sure that the decisions that help drive immediate economic growth don't have adverse impacts on generations to come, because it's our kids who are going to be paying back this debt.
So would you be open to a summit?
Very much so. We should be looking at ideas. I mean, there's got to be the right time for it. They've got a big job in front of them right now dealing with the pandemic, but we'll get.
What about broadening the base of GST?
Look, I think we should always be open to having the best tax structure possible and taxes that aren't an impediment to economic growth. I think GST is one of the better taxes, but I would only be in favour of increasing or broadening the GST in circumstances where we removed and abolished other taxes that were not as efficient.
Like
stamp duty.
Okay.